Welcome back to the channel. Celtic with 5 wins in the bounce with 5 clean sheets, and Rangers win at TANNADICE. A really important win for Rangers at the weekend there at a tough away ground. Probably one of those grounds where you think could maybe slip up there. I think a lot of Celtic fans probably were tuned in hoping that was going to be the case. Guilty. But to be fair to them, man, because I know we normally start with Celtic, so I thought I would change the pace.
Change it up a bit.
And try to show that I'm not afraid to talk positively about Rangers. And I'm kidding on, guys. I'm kidding. Keep watching, please. I like you all. Rangers fans are welcome. But the point is that I think they needed to show a bit more tempo, a bit more intensity, and for the first 20 minutes, they definitely did that. I thought they came out to trap us a wee bit, and the goal was a nice goal from Tom Lawrence, who's, I feel like, somebody that is Rangers Twitter, particularly. That's what I got from information from Rangers Twitter. So if there's something wrong with this, then forgive me. But
solid sources in.
I think there's been a lot of talk about him not really adding much to their midfield, and then he steps up and does that. So I feel like it's you're starting to see why Clement keeps picking him, because he can be the guy that breaks between the lines and makes that difference. It's just been, I think for him, it's been a case of getting games on his belt and getting fit again. But
so did you watch the full game?
Yeah, but I'm not like I watched the first half mostly, and I thought they played well, but also Dundee United evidently lacked a bit of quality in that final third to kind of capitalise on some of the Rangers' mistakes. I think that it was interesting how much they kind of grew into the game. But
Dundee United?
Yeah, but I think one of the reasons for that was because of the fact that they changed formation. So they started the game in Dundee United with back five, and I think it was like a 3 midfield, and they just got basically the first half an hour, they just dominate the midfield, and so they changed it to putting one more extra in there, and then that's when they started to get more up the pitch.
Right.
But they didn't really have the quality to kind of seize the opportunities that they got.
Yeah.
They didn't necessarily create any chances, but they got in the right areas, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I watched the last half hour, I think. I came back on Sunday and caught the last half hour of the game. And I felt like Rangers looked a bit flat, and they were having a lot of possession in their own half, but not a lot of possession in the Dundee United half. But when they moved forward, they looked pretty threatening. Dundee United came up last year, right?
Yeah, that's
yeah.
Right.
So we're talking about, as much as I think people were like, oh, TANNADICE, it's a tough place to go. I mean, they were a championship team last year.
Yeah.
So, beating the team that comes up for the championship 1-0 in a kind of flat game, there was a lot of times in the last season where we get results where you're thinking, that performance was bad though, like, and if the other team had really just decided to turn the screw, it looked like they maybe could have nicked a goal, and I think it looked like that to me in the second half. Tom Lawrence, I feel like he's just not as good Tom Rogic, in the sense that
kind of reminds me of Chris Cobbins,
right? Maybe, and that it's been so long since Chris Commons.
He's a bit more athletic than Chris Commons was, but in terms
of
fitter, it's the same. I think it's the same idea of what he's trying to do. Rogic to me was a different planet. People under it.
He was, but what I was going to say, that the similarities is that sometimes Rogic, not so much under Brendan the first time, or Ange when he played, but see when he played under Dyla and Lennon, he would just disappear out of games. Now he would have that moment where he would like touch and turn, and you'd be like, oh wow, he's a player. But then he would just, sometimes in big games, he would just be anonymous. And I feel like Tom Lawrence is a guy who's got a lot of ability, but for some reason, especially in the games against us, he's been absolutely anonymous. And so it's going to be hard for them to take to him, because they're looking for him to be their 10 or their talisman, and when it comes to these big games, he just seems to drift away. Doesn't help that Clement tries to put him on McGregor, or their full midfield are just taking up Bourne midfield, but I think that's the criticism of him. I've seen the goal's a good goal, and I think the guy's got a lot of ability, but you've got to get guys like that the ball constantly. And the amount of times on Sunday that Rangers just moved the ball from side to side in their back four, it just, you're like, but I mean, I think there was a lot of complaints for them for their support. So, good for us.
Yeah, I mean,
in that
like,
regard.
like the thing, I think the frustration for a Rangers fan would be the fact that they started off so well, and then it just as the game went on, it went flatter and flatter.
Well, that's what they did against us as well. That first, you know, they won the 10-minute trophy against us, but this is the problem, and it was a big problem for us the start of last season. If we don't score in that first 15 minutes, we start to get really anxious, and we start to shift the ball about, and nobody wants the ball, and blah blah blah, and they look like that, which comes down to Clement. I think that's coaching, really.
But then you could argue if you're a Rangers fan listening to what you just said there, you could argue that Clement is a fairly new team. There's a lot of people that have left. You know, your Goldsons and things like that. A lot of midfielders have left as well. So there's a big rejigging of the team. And although you're saying Celtic did that last season with Rodgers, where there was a lot of games like that where people were hiding a wee bit, but it was early on in the season, and we did eventually win the title. So you could then argue, you know, that while you're still bidding these players in, you want to go, if you're going to have any chance of catching Celtic, you need to go to TANNADICE and get 3 points.
Absolutely,
you know what I mean?
and it was mission accomplished in that regard.
And so I would say that as much as this is the thing, because people keep talking about this league as if it's a foregone conclusion, and I'm just like, it is not. It is never that. Just because, you know, because I just think, whether you like it or not, this team is clearly still getting to know each other, clearly still bedding with each other. And we don't really know Clement enough to know if he's, you know, with Rodgers, we kind of all thought, we kind of hanged our hat on the fact that we thought he would make us better eventually. And it took a bit longer than we thought it would last season, but eventually we just got over the line. Then the question becomes, does he have the ability to sort of grow this team and then peak at the right time? Because at the end of the day, nothing's won at this point, but it can be lost. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. And I think, like, I agree with you. If this Rangers team click into gear, you know, 5 points is 2 games, and we lost 2 games back to back in December last year. So.
Out of nowhere as well, just out of nowhere.
Yeah,
and you were like,
well, I think we kind of seen it coming.
I mean, when I say out of nowhere, I mean like in the sense of you're comfortable, and then just like 2 bad results. As much as we were kind of plodding along, the quickness of those defeats and the way they happened were a bit of a shock. And then all of a sudden Rangers are top and you're going, oh my God, yeah, what's happened there?
Yeah, so it can really turn really quickly. I think that the reason that, and I'll agree with you, it's not a foregone conclusion, do you know what I mean? Absolutely not.
You've seen it so many times where you think it is, and then, because even when, like we say, when Ange first came in, I thought there's no way we're winning this league, man. No way. And then, but then the problem is, you do. I think what you're about to reference, if I'm correct, is the depth they have. The depth they have is an issue in terms of, do they have this? I mean, it's not, I don't want to get in a financial debate here, right? But can they go in January and buy players that are going to support their squad? I did like the look at that guy, I can't remember his name now, but the guy they got from AC Milan to play up front, striker, who came on for Dessers.
Right.
He looked good.
Let's have a look at his name.
There's not. He was the guy that came in and they said he wasn't fit enough to play, or wasn't matched up enough to be part of the squad. But he came on for Dessers and he looked like he had
Hamza and Gami.
Yeah.
Right.
His touch was so much better. He was making runs behind. He looked dangerous. He looked like a proper threat. And if they can get that guy fit, for me, he looked like he can offer a lot more than Dessers. It was a lot more similar. Nowhere near. Well, it's not yet to show what level he's at, but his movement was more similar to like a Kyogo than like what they've had right now. I'm not comparing the two of them. I'm just trying to say.
Careful.
I don't want to be clipped for Twitter here. I'm not comparing the two of them. My point is that right now, Dessers, for as much as they try hard, he lacks a lot of mobility.
Yeah, I mean, my opinion of Cyril Dessers is that he's shite, to be perfectly honest. Like, if he's in a Celtic, he reminds me a wee bit of like, and I don't even think he's as good, but he reminds me of like where you're like, these
Yeah.
guys don't even make it into our they're lucky if they're getting on our bench.
Yeah.
And he reminds me of him, and I don't even think he's as clinical as O.
Mm.
You know, I don't see Cyril Dessers coming off the bench and getting one chance and scoring a goal. Like,
Yeah.
O could do that for a period of time under Ange and maybe a wee bit early.
He does have a good goal scoring record, but I mean,
He does, but he also needs about 9 chances to hit the back of the net, and he's horrific for giving away fouls, which, if you're going to be a target man, you need to draw the foul. If you're giving the foul away, you're not doing your job, and his touch is like, it's dog shit. I just don't rate the guy. I'm happy. I mean, there was chat that I think Neil Lennon said on TalkSport that he looked at Dessers in the year that we went for the 10 instead of a Yeti. We nearly signed Dessers, and instead El Yunusi, we nearly signed Lammers. So, I mean, they were looked at by Celtic and deemed not good enough. So, like that. Maybe that's a bit of gamesmanship for Lennon, try to like shit in their signings. But on evidence of Dessers, he never causes us a problem. He never ever causes us a problem. So I don't rate him. This guy facing Milan, I mean, that's a positive for Rangers, because they've got this number 10 for Algeria to come in, and this guy to come in, and that's maybe like a front two that could connect, and they might get clinical, because on the evidence so far this season, they're relying far too much. Well, the goals for James Tavernier are only there, and look, they're not scoring enough goals, so I'd say that's a big issue for them. But like you're saying, they don't have the strength and depth, I don't think, to challenge. It'll be interesting to see how they do against the other teams in the top 6 of the SPFL. I mean, the traditional, so they've already dropped points at Tynecastle. That's a horrible first day, you know what I mean? I mean, we've went there a couple of times and narrowly won or narrowly get beaten the first day of the season. Let's wait and see what happens when they go to Pittodrie. But I think the confidence that's coming for the Celtic fans that you're referring to, this is a foregone conclusion. It's just the form that we're on and just the way that we look. Yeah. We just look way better than whoever we're playing.
Well,
and we'll see tonight on the European stage if that can translate,
Yeah, I mean, well, moving on to Celtic then. 5 games, 5 clean sheets and 5 wins, which actually I believe breaks a record that's been held since, 1907 or something like that? Which when you think about the amount of success we've had over the past few years, that's a crazy record to break. And I think a lot of it is down to the way the team is obviously playing, but also when we lost Joe Hart, I thought, man, we are in trouble here, because why have we not signed a keeper yet? What is happening there?
Yeah.
And when Schmeichel came in, you're like, I guess the worry always is this guy past it. And it certainly doesn't look like it to me. He looks like a upgrade on Hart in a lot of ways, with the way that he his delivery, output, in the way that he gets us going quick.
His distribution is
that's the word I'm looking for.
I mean, we've not had a keeper that can distribute like that. And I don't even think Fraser Forster's distribution was quite as good. But you think about the goal with Tony Watt, he just get it and just. He was a good kicker of the ball and stuff like that, I think, in the end at Celtic. But I'm struggling to think of anybody that's had that level of distribution. I think that's the difference between a keeper that, can play maybe in Scotland, maybe the sort of lower leagues in England, the lower half of the Premier League, and somebody that the sort of top half of the Premier League would want. They want somebody that can get the ball. I mean, mate, he played a pass into the channel to Maidan Saturday that you're like, I don't think Carter Vickers will be able to play that ball. Yeah. He threw it, right? The throw, wasn't a ball at the feet, right? But mate, you're like, it was pinpoint accuracy. It went by this Hearts player, just get past him and right into the channel to Maidan. Maidan get fouled, and we're instantly in the top half of the top.
And he's not afraid.
Third.
He's not afraid to do it. There's the thing. I think that's one of the key things for a keeper. His confidence with his feet and his hands. And I think in the Champions League that could be such a huge difference for us in terms of having a keeper that can do that, because teams are going to press us. And so I've been well impressed with him. Even in the games we had clean sheets against Rangers and Hearts there, Rangers had a couple of chances, and it was at the end of the game, and there was a couple of really good saves from Schmeichel that don't get talked about because we won the game 3-0. But really good. He keeps his. So for me, when we can control games, his level of concentration has been great.
Yep.
Even against Hearts, a couple of really important moments from him.
Yeah, there was a couple of like headers. I think one of the Hearts guy had a one that was played to the back post and he hit it low and hard and Schmeichel just got done to it. So I agree. And I agree with you that I think that he's an upgrade on Joe Hart, and I loved Joe Hart, you know.
Yeah, exactly. So I think Celtic are looking pretty good. You know, 1-0, it was 2-0, 2-0.
It was 2-0. We could have scored a few more, but let's talk about the penalties. Let's talk about the VAR interventions.
There's been a lot about that. Well, you see, the thing is, I think that people need to take off whatever supporting team they have here and look at the actual rules, right? Because the thing is, they've changed the rules and the ball hits Scales' shoulder. So it's not a question of me arguing the point that it has a shoulder. It hits his shoulder.
It hits him above the t-shirt line, which is the arm. But above the sort of bicep.
And the rule for this season has been clearly stated that it needs to be below that.
Yeah.
So therefore, it's not a handball.
I think there was I think that the reasons. I mean, I don't know why the referee pointed to the spot in the first place. Because for me, well,
is that amazing?
Conspiracy theories coming out, but. So I think that the reason for me why the Liam Scales one wasn't a penalty was for three reasons. First one was when you look at it in slow mo, when you see it in full speed, you think I thought it hit his forearm. When you look at it in slow motion, it hits above the t-shirt line, so not a penalty for that straight away. Second of all, he's really close to the Hearts player. He's within about sort of a foot, 2 feet, you know, from the ball getting hit down. And then third of all, he's not looking at the ball. He's lost the flight of the ball. So you can see him sort of going, what the fuck happened there? So he's got no idea what's happened. There's no intention to stop the ball. It's sort of stopped the ball from going into an area where there was no Hearts player. Hearts actually got a shot away. If it had hit the back of the net, I think there'd probably been a legitimate goal, but Hitati cleared it off the line. He's too close to him to move. He can't move because he's not even fucking doesn't have a clue where the ball is. And then third of all, it hits him above the t-shirt line. So I think there was multiple reasons why it wasn't a penalty. I don't know why the referee pointed to the spot, but I think they eventually got it right. And this is what VAR's for. Ultimately, I think it was actually people took them so long. Take as long as you like, as long as you get to the right decision.
Yeah, and the thing is, there's been a lot of outrage about this. There's been a lot of debate about it. But it's just coming from the fact that, you know, we obviously going to get a penalty in the game. But the point I was going to make is what you're saying about the distance as well. That is part of the rule book as well. If it's too close to where they can't react, they've put that in the rule book as well to say, don't give a penalty, don't give something like that if it's that close. So, and it also is above, you know, the point that they've made that clear before the season started. So I don't understand what the debate actually is here. It just seems to be a case of, because you get Naismith coming in and be like, 2 penalties in the same ballpark.
I think you said something key there. Close enough so that they can't react, and that will come into it when we talk about the Hearts thing, mate. I mean, Naismith's just fucking upset that his team beat.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think
upset that he's one game away from getting the sack, probably.
Yeah. I watched I don't know if you watched, and I thought it's an amazing thing that the SFA are doing. Willie Collum is now going to come out once a month and do a YouTube video and explain all of the controversial decisions, right or wrong, and they'll talk about the coaching that the referees are getting. And I'll be honest, mate, see if this wasn't all public, I don't think they would have wiped away that penalty on Saturday. I think they'd have just let it stand. We've seen it so many times last season, but see now that their head of refereeing's coming out and telling the public this is what we're saying to the referees, I think the guys in the VR box will just be like, we need to not give this.
Yeah, actually, we did a video quite a few months back about the state of refereeing and how it can impact the quality of the game. And it's the first positive move that I've seen from the SFA to do something different in terms of showing that there's a want to be transparent, there's a want to improve what's going on here, and it's going to improve the game, because you can't have it be where if you don't have any accountability, referees can do whatever they want, whether you get VAR or not. Do you know what I mean? It's like at the end of the day, if you have accountability, you're raising the standards of the game by doing that.
Yeah.
And it's very clear, it was outlined very clear before the season started what the rules were. You go on to I think you're totally right, I think that's a great thing they're doing, but you go into the penalty that we get, and for me it's like, it's the distance is further apart, first of all. But the main thing for me is the fact that his hands are not a totally unnatural position. He doesn't need to. He's put his hands out forward, and he doesn't need to be like that.
Yeah. So this is what I was saying. He reacted. So he reacts to the ball coming towards him, and his hand actually goes towards the ball.
Yeah.
Comes out from just in front of his body, and so we've seen the one Conor Barron at Tynecastle at the start of the season. People were like, why was that not a penalty? Well, if it didn't hit his arm, it was going to hit his body. So his arm was in front of his body. So that's like, well, if he moves his arm out the road, it's just going to hit his body and go for a corner kick.
He extends. This guy
brings his arms up as if he's trying to protect his face, but the ball strikes his hand nowhere near his face. So for me, he's had time to react. So the distance, somebody saying that distance isn't enough for the guy. Well, he did react. His arms were out in front of him, and if the ball didn't strike his arm, it was going through to across the 6-yard
box. But the
box.
thing is, that's the key for me. Is that if he doesn't, if his arms aren't like, if his arms are in a natural position, if it has off his arm, it doesn't have his arm. It means it's going to hit off his body, right? But the fact of the matter is, if it doesn't hit off his hand, it's going into the box. We could score from that, for all we know. So it's one of those things where you go, and also the distance for me is not the same in the scale situation in the sense that there's clearly enough of a gap between when the ball leaves a Celtic player to his hand for him to react and not do that. And I just think that the two are completely different. And the fact of the matter is, the ball's going into the box. You know, his hand stops the ball from going into the box. And you just can't do that and expect to get away with it. I think the guy lost a wee bit of composure, and it's a Stonewall penalty.
I think like people that are watching Scottish football, people that are engaging with Scottish football on things like X and social media should really be watching these Willie Collum videos. I know I'm going to, because they change. Sometimes the parameters of what is a handball and what isn't a handball changes, and it changed at the start of the season. And I think a lot of people I watched Sky Sports and they were like, if that was last season, it'd be given. You're like, yeah, the rules have changed since last season.
Yeah.
So that's great. So there's a lot of this happens. You hear Kenny Miller going on about it. Well, I just don't agree with the rule. Well, listen, mate, you're a fucking dinosaur that's getting left behind then, because if you go back 10, 15, 20 years, the rules have changed so much that for people to just sit and go back and that wouldn't have been given. The game's moved on.
Yeah.
If you don't like it, go and work in another industry. Do you know what I mean?
See, to be honest, personally for me, the rule last season was a farce.
It was ridiculous sometimes.
So they improved. I think the fact that Scales isn't a handball anymore is a good thing.
I think so too. I mean, the one that springs to mind was, I think, against Hearts, where the Hearts guy hit a cross and it hit Matt O'Reilly in the knee and then came up and struck him on like the fingertips.
Yeah.
And it goes to VAR and he's like, that's a penalty. And you're like, the ball didn't even move direction. It just glanced off his hand.
So,
you know?
So what can we just take the team support out of it and realise that is a good thing that those handballs aren't getting given anymore. The reason why Celtic got a penalty was because the guy stops the ball from going into the box with his hand.
Yeah.
So that's it's like
100%.
That's the bottom line.
How did you feel? Did you see the video of Lauren Shanklin winding up? Is it Arnie Ingalls? That's how you say it. And Arnie Ingalls. Did you see when he was going like,
I'm
big
going to
pressure?
say, can I just say something? I thought that was really, really embarrassing for him.
Really?
Really embarrassing for him.
I love stuff like that, man.
I know, but I mean, like, I get that there's a funny element to it, right? But I'm just saying, like, you're this Hearts captain, and also for me, it's just like this guy has not. And with all due respect to him, he's played in that, but he's not scored a single goal this season in the league.
Uh-huh.
Do you know what I mean?
Well,
they are rock bottom of the league. He's not scored a single goal this season. He's talking about pressure.
Uh-huh.
Look at yourself, mate. What's going on?
Actually, like, I thought I was like, do you know what, man? See if we're going to sign a player for £11 million, he's got to take a penalty, put him under pressure. Like, let's see how he responds. I think if he'd have missed it, I'd have been like, fucking dick. But
from a Celtic point of view, it's funny. But if I was like, when I say it's embarrassing, I'm saying if I'm a Hearts fan, I find it embarrassing. Because see, if it was other way about and Callum McGregor was shooting all on shots and that, I'd be like, shut up, what are you doing? I don't want my captain doing that.
I suppose.
I was
didn't think about it like that.
I was saying that purely from if I was a Hearts fan, I'd be saying, we're bought with this league. We've not won a single game. You've not scored a single goal. You're shouting about pressure and that.
Uh-huh.
And you're meant to be our captain as well. It was a wee bit like, come on, surely you've got to have better standards than that from their point of view.
Yeah, a wee
From my
bit.
point of view, it's like, yeah, you're testing this guy's pressure and he slots it away like nothing. You know what I mean? And I thought he looked great at the weekend in terms of just like, you could tell his touch, his movement, all of it was working well. There seems to be this big debate about what our best midfield is going to be going forward. And it seems to be Eagles or Tati. People just need to be set on Bernardo being in there. Obviously, McGregor's a certainty, we know this. But one thing that I was going to say, well, there's 2 points I want to just make on this. Hatate has been really, don't overlook how important he's been, because like we said, off camera, like last season when we didn't have Hatate, the change in form for Celtic for those few months were massive. It was such a huge loss. And could Eagles be the same level in that and replace that impact? Possibly. But let's not underestimate the level in which, and also, if you look at our Champions League games, I think he's been a standout performer in the midfield to Tati. Most games we've played in Champions League. So he's clearly at a really high level. To dismiss the guy's impact, I think, is total ignorance. And we shouldn't overlook the fact that he for me, should still be in that starting midfield.
Mate, I couldn't agree more. I don't understand where, it's not even hate, but where the attitude towards Hatate kind of comes from.
I mean, sorry to cut you off there, but I think the main debate that I can see is that he does gas out a bit in about the 60-70 minute mark. He seems to have this. He's got a gas tank, but the thing that I think people overlook with that again is the reason why he gasses out in 60th minute is because he's running about mad for 60 minutes. He's going mental for 60 minutes.
Yeah,
and I don't mind the guy like gassing out if it means he's been given everything he's got for an hour. That's why you have depth in the first place. But the biggest problem for me with dropping a Tati for Eagles right now is the fact that I feel like Bernardo and Eagles, from what I've seen so far, are very similar midfielders. And kind of like when we had, do you know a midfield that never really worked under Ange was O'Reilly and Moy? Didn't really work.
Yeah.
Because they were so similar. And I'm seeing a lot of similarities between the way Eagles plays and Bernardo plays. I think Atati is the one that's a bit different. So I think the question's more about Eagles and Bernardo. Personally, I don't see a world where... But what I can say is that we're now in a place... When I watched the end of that game, I was looking at it and going, you're bringing off Kyogo, and Eagles and Hatate and bringing on McGowan, Eagles, and you're bringing on McGowan, Bernardo and Ida, and you're going, that's some strong depth. And McGowan, by the way, we're talking about this midfield, he's looking good. I thought he was excellent when he came on against Hearts.
I thought he was excellent as well. He got his goal.
He read the game really well as well.
I thought Gordon should have done better with the goal, but no taking anything away. Is it McCowan?
McCowan, yeah.
It's not McGowan, it's McCowan. You've seen the joy in his face. He's a Celtic guy through and through. Absolutely delighted for him. But in the midfield, we've now got like McGregor, McCowan, Hatate, Bernardo, Engels. So 5 real players that I think I would be happy seeing on a starting 11. I would have liked to have seen maybe Hatate did a long journey, going to Japan.
Yeah.
I don't think he played, but he made a long journey. So did Dyson Maeda, but Dyson Maeda's an absolute freak of nature. That guy would run through a brick wall after coming off the plane, I think. But I would quite like to see us get to the point where maybe we try a different midfield 3 when Hatate's done a round the world trip to not play football, you know what I mean? And because you're right, the guy does gas out a wee bit, sort of 60, 65 minutes. I think we've seen that for Bernardo in the Celtic Rangers game as well. It's hard work in that Celtic midfield.
It's intensity.
That's it.
It's because all of our press has come from the midfield 3. So I think, but that's probably why Rodgers was so desperate to get 2 midfielders in, because they knew that how important that area was going to be over the course of a season.
Look what happened last year when Hatate got injured.
Exactly.
The arse fell out the team,
But now it's like, if you get an injury, you don't want that, obviously, but you've got options there. And I'm really impressed with the way McGowan's come into it, and it gives you a really good kind of problem to deal with. But where do you fall in this debate in terms of who does Eagles come in for long term? Because he's obviously going to start more games than he's not.
I think he's the natural replacement for Matt O'Reilly. I think that Paulo Bernardo is a more long term, I wouldn't like to say a project player, but I mean, last season when O'Reilly, Hatate and McGregor were fit, he was the guy coming off the bench at the hour mark to freshen it up, and I think that's going to be him and McCowan's role in that squad. If we do get an injury, I'll be more than happy for either of the two of them to slot in. I think McCowan might be eyeing him for the McGregor sort of role.
I was going to say.
But I mean, we sold Iwata, who I had absolutely no issue with, by the way. But I think that McCowan's a better player. I think Engels is well better player, and I think Paulo Bernardo's a better player than Iwata. So I think we've replaced Iwata and Matt O'Reilly with 3.
Yeah.
I mean, I would hate to think, I'm not saying anything right now, but if Arne Engels ends up being better than Matt O'Reilly, I wouldn't be surprised.
Well, outside of Celtic and Rangers, McGowan was one of the best players in the league last season.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was one of the reasons why Dundee finished the top 6. Because Dundee are not a top 6 club, and he was the captain of their team. And I think the key is as well, they're all players that Rodgers wants. You know what I mean? And you made a really good point there. He's obviously came into place with O'Reilly. If O'Reilly had stayed, Bernardo would have been that 4th guy. But also remembering that as much as I want McGregor to play forever, he's 31 now. You don't know. The legs fell off Brown pretty fast, like kind of out and over almost, right? You kind of thought he could play till he was 40, but then we just got to one season where everything just went wrong for him. And I think that you need to be wary of the fact that at one point McGregor will dip, and we need to have that option where, is it really wise to have a 31 play 60 games this season? Probably not. Do you know what I mean? And you want somebody like a McGowan to be able to come in and play that role, which is, I think he's shown that when he came on, he was intercepting things, and he was starting a lot of the moves as well, as well as his goal.
Yeah.
And I was well impressed with the way that he played. Great composure.
Absolutely. And I think it's the best midfield 5 that we've had since Brown, Hartley, Barry Robson, Donati, like that sort of peak Gordon Stratton team. People out there might be like, well, Wanyama, Ledley, Brown. Aye, like I think that's another strong midfield. I think it's the best midfield 5 that we've had in a decade, because there's always been one, where you're like, whether it be Iwata, where you're like, all right, okay, I'm all right with it, but I would rather, the guy that's injured or whatever. I'd like to see it get to the point where maybe if we play a Champions League 3, Hatate, Engels and McGregor, that maybe we play Bernardo, Engels and McCowan, or McGregor, McCowan and Bernardo. I don't know. I would like to see us be able to use that strength and depth, not only to come off the bench and impact games, but to actually be able to rotate our squad so that we've got fresh legs for a Tuesday or Wednesday night.
Well, having those options for this long season and try to compete in all 3 competitions as well as Champions League is such a good place to be in terms of the depth we've got and where we're at. I mean, you're spoiled for choice, and that's where you want to be. You want to be spoiled for choice. Like we said before, we backed the manager. You just, even against Hearts, it kind of felt like we just didn't quite get our second gear, and we still won the game quite comfortably. And we should have been 3-0 if Parma had bothered his arse to get onside a couple of yards. That infuriated me, actually. See, when we talk about why Parma doesn't start and Kuhn does and stuff like that, that's why. Because he's so lazy sometimes. Because I'm sorry, but if you're looking at, this is a wee rant, but if you're looking across the line, get back on side, man.
Agreed, so man. Lazy. I think it robbed Ida like an important goal for the guy. But it was good to see him stick in the back of the net, and he'll take confidence for that. But absolutely, looking across the line like that and getting caught offside is criminal. But
he was miles off it as well. He wasn't even close.
Criminal, mate.
It's just frustrating, and you go, that's... Because you know how sometimes you watch probably like, why does he not play more than stuff like that happens? And you go, that's why. Because he's just not got the right mentality.
I think he likes a bit of a beer.
Yeah.
Like there's loads of photos of him with a beer.
Aye. Well, you can kind of... But at the same time, for me, as much as this is going to sound crazy, I still think he walks into like Rangers team. I think he walks into that Rangers... Like Parma, a player that is not in a front three for me walks into the Rangers team.
100%, mate. 100%.
And that shows you where the depth is at. And for me, you can spin it whichever you want, but eventually the depth comes through over the course of a league season, which is where Rangers are going to struggle, I think. But
absolutely. So this weekend it's Scottish Cup, or Scottish League Cup, and Rangers are at home to Dundee United. To Dundee. But I think this gets made tougher. It's a 5:30 kick-off on a Saturday night, and I hate them. I don't know why, but for some reason
they're never easy.
They're never easy games, are they? And and then we on Sunday are at home at 3:00 to Falkirk. Will we wrap up with a couple of predictions for the Scottish League Cup?
Yes, let's. Well, I think with Rangers back at Ibrox, it's going to be rocking.
I think so.
It's going to be rocking, and I expect them to hammer them, to be honest.
I think so.
I think it could be 4-5-0, just based on the fact they're back there. And I think that could give them, when we talk about turning points in terms of boosting them and getting them playing better, I think the fans will just be desperate to get back at Ibrox and desperate to create an atmosphere. So I think that could, over the next few weeks, could see them give some teams some drubbings there and maybe build some momentum for them. But I think the first game back against Dundee, I expect them to go out and put a few past them.
Okay, I would say so. 3-0, I'll go Rangers.
I'll go 4 because I just feel like they're just going to score mad.
And what about Celtic Falkirk?
Celtic Falkirk is interesting because I just feel like tonight, obviously we're recording this before the Champions League game, is going to be a big atmosphere. And for me, the game at the weekend depends on what we do tonight. Because if we banana slip tonight at home against this team that's not really that well known and lose or draw, I think the atmosphere at the weekend against Falkirk could be a bit of a dip, to say the least. But in saying that, you would expect at home with Falkirk. Are they even in the Championship? I think they're in the League One.
I'm not sure, but I think they put a Premier League team out in the last round. I think they've had a really good start to the season and they're playing really well.
Well, what I would say is that this is where that depth comes into play again.
Yeah.
Because I think you could probably have a totally different midfield three for that game.
Yeah, and I think we'll probably start Ida, and we'll probably start the likes of Palmer.
Yeah, why not? And if you can't start Palmer at home with Falkirk, what are you doing?
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
I would go for a cagey 2-0 win.
Yeah,
we'll score early, then Falkirk will have a couple of chances, and then we'll score late on. That's what I think.
Because I always feel like it's games like that where you it's always games that there's home games in the week ups where you think you're going to have them, but it's always like cagey and you get a couple of goals from like set pieces and that you just get it done with. But at the same time, I think if Celtic do go and get a positive result tonight, that momentum from the fans and everything, the positive momentum of winning the Champions League I think we could. I mean, on paper, you would expect us to go out there and put a few past them, but I think it's just one of those games where the players are going to be in a bit of a come down. The atmosphere compared to tonight is going to be completely different. So I think it'd be different, but that's again the good thing about having depth, of having the issue where these players that don't start tonight are going to want to go out there and show why they should. So while it might not be a big game for some of our players, it's a big game for the players that don't start the game.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So I think puts us in a really good position. I expect us to go through, and then that'll be, is it Hampden then, wins it? That's quarter final.
It's at Celtic Park.
I'm saying it's a quarter final. This game at Celtic Park against Falkirk, it's quarter final.
Yes, then it'll be Hampden for the semis.
So, in the semi-final, and it's just like I expect us to be there, and I think it will be a good. I think it's ideal for us though. The League Cup's happening after Champions League in terms of the league games have a bit more pressure on them and stuff like that, and players can just kind of. We should be able to beat Falkirk without getting out of second gear. Do you know what I mean? So that's the way that fixture's worked out. It's probably ideal. I don't think Rangers play in Europe till the following week.
I couldn't even tell you.
I checked it. I don't think they play in Europe till the following week because they play on Sunday, don't they?
No, they're playing Saturday. So there's no way they'll be playing in because there's Champions League games on Thursday night. For the
yeah.
So they'll not be playing till next week.
So it'll be interesting to see how all that pans out. I think I expect us to both go through and both have convincing wins, and I'm really looking forward to that. I'm going to the game, so hopefully it'll be a positive result for us to talk about in the podcast in the future. And if you haven't checked out, we have had quite a few different podcasts up on the channel talking about Steve Clarke, Scotland, Champions League preview. We went through every European game for Celtic and Rangers and give our predictions. So if you haven't seen that, check it out. Obviously, we had the podcast last week with Sean. We've got comedian Gregor Mackay coming up as well. And if there's anyone you want to see in the podcast with one-to-one interviews or even just to talk about football, of course, let us know. Plenty more content coming. We'll have at least one video out every Tuesday, so stay tuned for that. And also just try to have more content throughout the week. So if you're watching, thank you, and we'll be with you again soon.